Curtis Sliwa is on the phone with me. He's the founder of the Guardian Angels and host of the Curtis Sliwa Show, curtissliwa.com, the website. Hey, Curtis.
Yes.
Great to have you with us. You and I were on a TV show last Wednesday, and you took the position, yes, we like those drones. I wanted to discuss that with you and challenge you on that. I'm strongly of the opinion, and I believe the CIA is starting to back me up on this, that every terrorist we kill, we're creating 1,000. Why would any thinking person support killing people indiscriminately in another country?
Well, first off, the President of the United States, who I did not support in his election bid against John McCain, was very clear on his position towards Pakistan. If you remember, he said we should take the war to the Taliban and al-Qaeda in Pakistan. If that means bomb them, then so be it, bomb them. And he was attacked on both the left and the right for those statements.
Yeah, and I disagree with that. And
right.
And I mean, here's the news story. This Gareth Porter reporting for the Interpress Service. CIA officers involved in the agency's drone strike programs in Pakistan and elsewhere are privately expressing their opposition to the program within the agency because it is helping al-Qaeda and its allies recruit. This is a quote from one of the CIA, from Jeffrey Adicott, a former legal advisor to U.S. Special Forces and director for the Center of Terrorism Law. He said, because of its blowback effect, it is doing more harm than good. He goes on to say, CIA officers are very upset with the drone strike policy. Drone strikes are being used very effectively by al-Qaeda and Taliban leaders to recruit more militants. How possibly can this be of benefit?
Well, of course it's a benefit, because then if I were to follow that line of thinking, it's better for us to be victims, as was the case post 9/11, when still al-Qaeda vowed to take us out and continue to stretch their effective tentacles across the world, from Indonesia to Spain to Yemen to Somalia and other ports of call. So to suddenly suggest that being aggressive is going to stir up the pot and create a recruitment bonanza for al-Qaeda and the Taliban, well, Post 9/11 created a bonanza of recruitment opportunities for the Taliban and al-Qaeda.
Well, I would say that George Bush did. But let me ask you a question, Curtis. Do you really think that when the IRA was bombing England, and they attempted to murder Maggie Thatcher, in fact, and damn near did, that the United Kingdom should have started aerial bombardment of Belfast?
No, but if you notice,
why not?
They controlled Northern Ireland. Remember, Northern Ireland was under their jurisdiction, and they.
We don't control Afghanistan and Pakistan?
We don't control Pakistan. In fact, the Pakistanis don't control that northwest section of Pakistan. It's lawless. It's tribal. It's the equivalent of what we would call our deliverance areas.
So if the British controlled Northern Ireland, how is it that the bombings were happening?
Well, the bombings were happening because it was in an urban setting. It was in a first world setting. This is in a third world setting in which you have very primitive conditions, and you have a country which supposedly is in control of the northwest section, but it's an area of tribal lawlessness where anarchy reigns, and obviously al-Qaeda and Taliban have continued their existence and have strengthened their position.
The extent to which anarchy reigns, it's reigning because we've disrupted the historic. You're right, it is a tribal area, and these are hospitality culture tribal people. Their cultures are different than ours. They remember what they owe, and they remember what is owed them for generations, and nurse those wounds. And so when we go in and with a drone and take out a house or two or three and kill one senior al-Qaeda leader and 20 or 30 civilians, we're creating a blood feud against the United States by all of the relatives, hundreds or thousands of relatives of the innocent people who were killed for generations.
Yeah, meantime, under Bush and Cheney, who I supported, drones were flying over, and in many instances were just taking aerial reconnaissance photographs. And if you remember, whole groups of Taliban and whole groups of al-Qaeda were waving up to the drones because they didn't fear getting incinerated. Now you have the leadership of al-Qaeda and Taliban on the run. The modern technology is such they can't sleep in the same place twice. They can't inhale, they can't exhale without fearing that some drone is going to take them out. And as you know, in any organization, no matter how fractured it is, no matter how many cell groups there are, without leaders like Khalid Mohammed,
Sheikh Mohammed,
like Osama bin Laden, like others, like the number 3 guy in al-Qaeda we just took out, Those cells are not able to sustain themselves. They need financing. They need structures. They need orders from headquarters. So I say, raise the roof for Barack Obama and continue to incinerate our enemies.
Yeah, this is a fantasy, Curtis. You don't think that there are any other people in Pakistan or Afghanistan who are capable of leadership? You don't think that the more Arabs we murder, particularly innocent Arabs we murder, that the more other Arabs that were back to Saudi Arabia doing fundraisers to send the money off to the poor victims of oppression? I mean, how can you imagine that? You think these people are fundamentally different from us? I mean, if the question that I posed Wednesday, you recall, if Mexico decided that they were going to help us out with the problem of Colombian drug lords in Manhattan, in your town, started dropping bombs out of the sky and taking out apartment buildings in Manhattan, and by the way, killing some Colombian drug lords, would you be all in favor of that?
Well, didn't Mossad and Shin Bet do that for years?
No.
Hasn't our CIA operated in that capacity in South America? In the areas where they have, I would say that we have created such blowback that we created communist insurgencies by doing exactly that in South America. But beyond that, look at how this is indiscriminate. Well, it's relatively discriminate killing, as opposed to the old school CIA Mossad. Okay, here's one guy, we're going to follow him for 6 years and finally nail him. That's a completely different thing. Well, how is it completely different? You don't think that in many of the attacks that were waged by the Shin Bet and the Mossad in retaliation for attacks against Israelis, that innocent collateral damage was done, that innocent victims were killed in the process? Of course they were. We're at war.
I think it was...
These people have their camps. They're training to literally create weapons of mass destruction. This latest homegrown terrorist from Bridgeport, Connecticut, was going to Northwest Pakistan.
The Taliban is paying $6. The Taliban is paying $6 a week to these for soldiers, as it were, in Afghanistan and Pakistan. In those regions where we go in and offer them $10 a week, suddenly there's no more Taliban. In those regions where Greg Mortensen went in and built schools, I don't know if you've read 3 Cups of Tea or not. This guy built, for the cost of one cruise missile, he built over 100 schools, and in those literally counties, I mean, huge areas, some of them the size of small states, the size of New Jersey, the locals have thrown the Taliban out because an American is educating their girls.
Look, there's no...
Why are we not dropping schools instead of bombs?
Now, do you really think that you're going to deal with hardcore Al-Qaeda and Taliban operatives by setting up schools to counteract
Yes, I really do. I really believe that when you get the local population on your side, they will kill the Taliban leaders themselves, and there's proof of it.
So we're going to have to do this now in Somalia. We're going to have to do this in Yemen.
Yes.
We're not going to go after the bad guys. We're going to
It's called nation building, and it has a long history of actually working.
Oh, wait a second. Where do we hear nation building? Oh, that's right. That was Bill Clinton, nation building, and then inherited by George W. Bush. Oh, yeah. That really worked.
Yeah, in Kosovo, in Croatia. Yeah, it did work.
Wait a second. We had some errant bombing in Serbia first. Bill Clinton, remember?
Yeah, we were fighting back against
embassy. Based on them getting that information from an old telephone book that basically had bogus information. Yeah. We were bombing placebos out there. There were cardboard facsimiles of tanks because we were so high in the sky.
So you want to refight the Bill Clinton wars? Okay. Curtis Sliwa. CurtisSliwa.com is his website, The Curtis Sliwa Show, and founder of the Guardian Angels. Curtis, thanks for dropping by today.
Oh, I support Barack with the drones.
Okay. Good talking with you.